Hello, and welcome to Manger's Study. I am your host, CJ, and this is episode 3 on Project 2025. As I'm recording this, it is the 20th of July, and there are 107 days until midnight on Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. We are now into Section 1, which is taking the reins of government. We're going to fly through a bunch of pages here. Section 1 begins on page 19, or page 52 of the PDF. This section, I think, could be possibly used in like a college course or something of that sort, explaining the various positions of the executive branch. I was reading through it on my Kindle and didn't notice much of anything political in it. Little itty bits in there, but mostly it was dry information. Although, from kind of a nerdy point of view, kind of interesting. Let's see if we can fly through it. At the beginning, we are informed that the 250th anniversary of America's founding will happen during the next presidency. And America is divided between woke revolutionaries and those who believe in the ideas of the American Revolution. Abe Lincoln warned us that the greatest threat to America would come from not from without, but from within. Regarding Lincoln, he was one of those enemies, probably. He suspended the rule of law during his administration. He did a lot of things. Regardless of your opinion about the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln was no friend of the Constitution. He was no friend to the rule of law. But okay. At any rate, we are informed that the president is in charge of the executive branch, of course, and it is the president's agenda that should be guide the various departments and agencies of the executive branch. Federal bureaucracy, however, the deep state, the administrative state, the bureaucratic state, however you want to put it, seems to have a mind of its own and pays no heed to the head of federal bureaucracy, the president. In order for somebody to actually control all this federal bureaucracy, you first have to understand it. And perhaps this is why Trump failed to drain the swamp during his first term. He just didn't understand it. I don't think that that is anywhere outside the realm of possibility. It's also possible that he was powerless to stop it, or that he just didn't try very hard. Any one of those three probably mean that he wasn't a very great president, but we're going to leave that alone for right now. Continue on with Project 2025. All right, so political appointees to the executive must know what to do, how to do it, and must be given the support to actually do it. During Trump's first few months of the presidency, he apparently appointed fewer political appointees than any other president in recent history. Project 2025 wants to change that. They want to ensure that Trump makes all the appointments that he can and should. Presidents and those serving them must follow the Constitution. With that in mind, they shouldn't proclaim law unilaterally, for example, mask or vaccine mandates, transference of student loan debt, etc. So the president needs to appoint people who will follow the Constitution and who will follow the agenda of the president. The agenda of the president should be, according to Project 2025, to dismantle the bureaucratic state as much as possible. With that, we're into Chapter 1, the White House Office. This begins a description of various officers of the White House, political appointees who are to execute the agenda of the president. Again, this is where the descriptions begin. They go on for a bit. This is where we begin to zoom through. I'm not going to go through every position. That would be for a video series talking about how the White House works, not on the political desires of the Heritage Foundation at all. I will look if there are political things in nature, though. If I missed something that you think is important, let me know in this particular part of the text. I didn't want to go through every single small, tiny thing. I think that if you want to, you certainly can. But as far as the political agenda of Project 2025, I don't think it was that important for it. On pages 26 and 27, or 59 and 60 of the PDF, we are given the description of the White House counsel, the lawyer for the White House. They're not the president's personal attorney, although sometimes the line between personal and professional are murky. The counsel does need to be committed to the president's agenda, and just like every other officer, and must be there to advance the president's agenda. Quote, they should not erect roadblocks out of an abundance of caution. Rather, they should offer practical legal advice on how to promote the president's agenda within the bounds of the law, unquote. I find this a little bit interesting, although I doubt it's controversial, really. The council shouldn't be there as a credential for a career, but should, quote, function more as an activist, yet ethical, unquote, advocate for the president. I'm not sure how that is different than any other president's council. I imagine because they felt the need to put it in here that president's councils have had problems enacting the president's agenda before and simply acted as people who would say no, and instead of saying yes and maybe the president's council needs some improv classes. I don't know. On page 31, we learn that Reagan let us know that personnel is policy. So the Office of Presidential Personnel is pretty important. That's a lot of P's. That list of that the Project 2025 people came up with of possible appointees is probably going to be given to whoever is in charge of this PPO. I'm willing to bet that Project 2025 would really like to have one or more of its people in this position in this office. And if Trump becomes the next president, I kind of want to learn more about whoever gets put in charge here to see if my suspicions are correct. Chapter 2, Executive Office of the President of the United States, starting on page 43 or 76 of the PDF. As we have said a few times, the President is in charge of the executive. That is a common theme going on here, but the bureaucratic state is out of control and not beholden to the President, even though they are part of the executive. I'm pretty sure this is a reference to the long march through the institutions of progressives. If you've never heard of that, it's basically the idea that 100 years ago, progressives were like, we need to take control. How do we take control? Well, we can't just go for the president every time. We can't just go the House or the Senate or judges. We have to be in charge of the institutions, of colleges, of universities, of bureaucracies. So if we get people in there, then we will have a long march towards progressivism. And yeah, that's where that comes from. If you've never heard of it before, it's a pretty interesting idea, and probably one reason that the bureaucratic state exists as it does now. Regardless, 2025 continues. The president should, quote, limit, control, and direct the executive branch on behalf of the American people, unquote. Congress has been bad at doing their job and have instead delegated its lawmaking responsibility to bureaucracies. The challenge for the next conservative president, for Trump, is to use the power of the executive to return power to the American people. This is the problem as I see it. Republicans/conservatives all too often say that this is their ideal, that they want to take power back from Washington elites and give it back to the people. And yet they fail to live up to that whenever they gain power. I'd put money on that not happening. I do think we are going to close it here for today. Coming up next is a look at the U.S. Office of Management and Budget, and it looks like there might be some juicy tidbits in there. We shall see. Until next episode, take it easy.